Hi, I'm Shannon Vandermark, and this is the Happily Ever After Without Children podcast. Welcome back, listeners, and a grand welcome to any newcomers. Hey, newcomers, please subscribe. This podcast is for anyone who doesn't have children, and for anyone who loves someone who doesn't have children. It's for those who have struggled to conceive, and for anyone who has found themselves realizing that for whatever reason, children of their own might not be in their futures. It's also for those steadfast in their decisions to never have children in the first place. The time has come to open up the taboo subjects of childlessness, infertility, and the child-free life without fear of judgment. And everyone holds a rightful place in this conversation. Everyone. And that means the men too. If you like what you hear and you are able to support what I'm doing, it needn't take more than a couple of minutes and it won't cost you a penny or a pence. Please write a review on the Happily Ever After Without Children podcast page on iTunes. You can also share details of the podcast with everyone you know in the whole world and subscribe if you have not already. Hey, have I mentioned subscribing? Yes, please do that. Episode 15. It is what we, in the production world of British telly, like to call the penultimate episode of this podcast series. The second to last episode, that is. I recorded this interview with the lovely Zarina over the summer last year, hence the open window with some of the traffic outside. It was hot, humid. We were at Zarina's home, so her cat and her husband can be heard in the background sometimes. Zarina is a beautiful soul who I met through a friend who brought Zarina along to one of the support group meetings I was running. Shy at first, Zarina didn't tell her story to the group. We met up a few times socially before I started hearing little bits and pieces of what she and her husband had been through. I want to give you a heads up that there are parts of this interview that might be difficult for you to hear. I think that in many ways, this was the most difficult interview that I have put together, because it's so raw that it brought up memories in me that I thought I had dealt with, or, I don't know, maybe significantly buried. So it has taken me a while to go back through this interview and get it ready to broadcast. I've left it mostly unedited, so it runs longer than most of my other episodes, but I think you'll see why. Zarina is so articulate in her pain, so delicate with her words, and so achingly honest. I was thinking to myself as I was listening to it just now, why haven't I put this episode out earlier? The truth is that it didn't seem to fit neatly under my Happily Ever After banner. It made me feel sad in places and put me back into some of my own worst memories to the point that I had to rediscover my own Happily Ever After just to make sure it was still there. But I made it, and bless Zarina, I owe her a lot for saying things I couldn't say, and for grabbing me and holding me close to her story, even though we had only just met. It's been 8 months since I recorded this interview, and I feel as though now I'm finally in a position to give Zarina's story the light it deserves. If I had edited this 8 months ago, I might have softened it so that I felt better, it felt safer, or so we could just brush over the pain and be happy quicker. But let's just sit with this for a moment, because how can we really find the light if we squeeze our eyes shut in the face of the darkness? I hope you enjoy this episode, and I'll check in with you at the break. Hello, Zarina.
Hello.
So thank you for having me over to your house.
You're welcome.
It is a beautiful house. You were just telling me about all of the work you had done.
Yes.
And so how long did you say you've been here for?
So we've been in the house for 4 years.
Yeah.
And so we just recently renovated it a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And so we're really excited to be now living in this new house.
It's and you've done an incredible job. It is beautiful and very welcoming.
Thank you.
You'll have to be having lots of parties,
Yes,
I guess.
definitely. Yes. I mean, there's a list of people that we've got invites, including all of you lot.
That's a dangerous...
The crazy bunch.
Yeah, the crazy bunch. So yeah, I guess, can you just actually take me back to when you were growing up and like what you kind of were imagining about being a grown-up and when you grow up? Do you remember what your kind of expectations or dreams were as a little girl?
It's funny you say that, because just before you actually came, I was thinking that, and I was thinking to myself, I wonder if that's a question that will be asked. And it's strange because as a child, I was always a very girly girl, you know.
Right.
And you know, would play with my cousins and everything, and you know, I'd always be the teacher, and it's strange because I always knew what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be. And one of the things I wanted to be was a mother. Mm-hmm. It was just something that just naturally I mean, I know it sounds really weird, how can you know that at a young age? But I just knew that, okay, one day I'm going to get married and I'm going to have children.
Right.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
It wasn't a case of it was kind of, you know, embedded in me or anything by my family. It's just something just naturally. I was just like that. I wanted to be married and have children.
Sure.
So it's something that really started from a young age. And as I grew older, I met Atha, my husband now, and we've been married for 11 years. I met him actually quite late. We'd known each other for we met when I was 27 years old.
Okay.
But we actually didn't start dating. It's a very long story, but we didn't start dating straight away. And I think it was about 29 that we started going out, properly dating. And at the age of 32, we got married. Well, I was 32.
Uh-huh.
So it was, yeah, I knew straight away, right, I'd met the right person, wanted to settle down, get married and have children. And 32, even though it's not old, it's still old when it comes to your biological clock. You know that at the back of your mind, you're 32 years old and time is kind of ticking away. So I knew that, right, I'm married now, next step, few months, and I want to have children.
Right. And that's the way it works.
Yeah. And that's exactly how it worked. You know, That's exactly how we planned it. You know, we were married for about 6 months and we started trying.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's when it all kind of just went a bit pear-shaped, you know. I thought that I would have no problems at all.
Yeah.
But obviously there were problems and there was a lot in store for us
in
the next 9-10 years. And that's where it started from, really.
10 years is a long time.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, we started, like I said, we started trying 6 months. I had my first miscarriage. I remember it was in January 2008. And then it's funny because when you have your first miscarriage, all of a sudden alarm bells go off and you start thinking, oh, is there a problem now?
Right.
I didn't think there was a problem. I thought that I would just naturally conceive, everything would be fine. But the minute you have your first miscarriage, you think, oh, okay, well, obviously there is a problem. And I started trying straight up. After that, I started trying a few months later and fell pregnant again. And then it was just a case of just kept trying. I was not willing to give up.
Yeah.
Just kept trying, having miscarriages after miscarriages after miscarriages. And then I found out that there was a problem.
Okay.
And I had fibroids.
Yes. Which, can you just tell me what that means?
So they're benign tumors.
Yeah.
And they were obstructing the uterine cavity. And when I went to the doctor, the consultant, he said that it could be that maybe that's the reason why you're not falling pregnant.
Okay.
Could possibly be the reason.
How many years in was that you found out that?
It's about 1.5 years. At that point, I'd had 3 miscarriages.
Okay. So at that point, the NHS decides you've had enough that we can go into this?
Well, it wasn't as simple as that.
Yeah.
To go down the NHS route
Yeah.
would have meant a wait list
Yes.
of 2 years. And I was not going to wait 2 years. I mean, time was ticking away. So I did my own research, and we decided to do it privately.
Mm-hmm.
And my cousin, who is a doctor, he lives in the US, in Atlanta, he was on his way to India. And he said to me, look, there's this hospital there in India. And apparently the surgeon who specializes in this, he used to be a consultant at the Royal Free in London. He's actually one of the best. He's a renowned consultant in this field for removing tumors and everything. Why don't I meet? He set up his own hospital in India. So why don't I go and meet him? So he went out there and he met with him, had a really good conversation, and that's where it started from. And I started to speak with this particular consultant. I got myself booked in to fly out to India. It was actually costing me half of what it would have cost me to do it in the UK.
Wow, even with the travel?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was just, and I had family out in India as well, so I knew that I had somewhere to stay and everything.
Okay.
So I flew out to India, and
On your own?
I went with my father, because my husband couldn't get the visa.
Right.
So I ended up going out with my dad, and I flew out there, and I had the operation, and there was about 4 or 5 tumors in there, and they removed them. And I remember the consultant saying to me that your chances of falling pregnant have increased now. You've got a window. You need to give it a couple of months and start trying again. This is your opportunity.
Okay.
Came back, recovered for a couple of months, and tried to get pregnant. Fell pregnant straight away. Fell pregnant. And I was just like, wow, couldn't believe it.
Right. You were like, I'm cured.
Yeah. I was like, wow.
Problem solved.
Yeah. Fell pregnant. And it was the longest pregnancy I had. So it was 3 months.
Yes.
Whereby all the other pregnancies I'd had were about 7 to 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
This was actually the longest pregnancy that I'd had.
3 months is a long time.
Yeah. And I still remember till this day, it was December 2011. We just actually moved into this house.
Okay.
Sorry, did I say 4 years we've been here? We've actually been here longer. But anyway, it was 2011. We just moved into this house, and I was pregnant, and it was December 2011, and it was the day before New Year's Day, 2012.
Right.
And we were going to surprise the family.
Right.
And break the news and tell them that we are pregnant. It's 3 months. After 3 months, everyone's always a little bit before. No, the only people that actually knew about this was my sister and my mom. They were the only ones who knew, but Atha's family did not know about this at all. Only because there's a sense of, you don't want to disappoint everyone, and it was just, I guess there was a sense of pressure that you just wanted to make sure everything was fine before you actually told everyone.
Did everybody know what you'd been going through?
Yes, everyone knew. Everyone knew what we'd been through. And it was just heartbreaking to actually break it to the family every time that you think you're pregnant, and you're pregnant, and then you miscarry a couple of days later. So we decided that, this time it's obviously everything's going according to plan. We'll wait till the 3 months and then we'll tell everyone. And it was the night before we were actually going to tell everyone.
No.
That it was a strange day that day. I still remember it. I was just not feeling well at all. I was just not feeling good at all. There was something just wasn't right.
Right.
And I think when you've had so many miscarriages, you know your body.
Mm-hmm.
You know it pretty well. And you know something doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Something didn't feel right. And I remember telling Atha that morning, I just don't feel good. And he said, you're just probably tired. And I thought, you know what? Everyone kept saying to me, you need to stop being paranoid as well. You know, because especially when you've had so many miscarriages, you tend to become a bit paranoid.
Of course.
The slightest little twitch or something, you think, oh my God, that's it. You know, I'm miscarrying. And, I just wasn't feeling too good. And then that night, I remember I was lying in bed. It was probably about 7 o'clock or something in the evening. Arthur brought up a bowl of soup for me, and I was just in bed and I was just having some soup, and all of a sudden I choked, and it was just a horrible choke. It was just, I just couldn't stop coughing. I felt as if I was suffocating. And the next thing I knew was, I remember rushing to the toilet, and I could just feel something was on its way. And yeah, I just sat there, and I just remember just grabbing a load of tissue. I just knew what was happening. And then just putting it under me, and that was it. The next thing I knew, there was a tiny little baby that dropped out. And yeah, I'll never forget that moment.
No.
Because it was a baby. It had eyes, it had nose, it had lips. It was a baby.
Yeah.
If you Google it, if you go on the internet, you'll see at 3 months, it is a baby. I mean, it's,
sure.
You know, it might have not had arms and legs and, you know, but there was a face.
Oh, God.
So you can imagine, you're lying there, and I just went numb. I just went into shock. And I remember Arthur coming into the toilet, and we just both sat there crying, and we just sat there looking at this 3-month-old baby. And then we went downstairs and just got a little box, found a little matchbox, that's all I could find, and put some tissue in there and just put this baby in there. And then the ambulance came, and, you know, there was, without going into too much, there was a lot of, you know, bleeding and stuff. And
yeah.
And I think after that, something changed. Something changed in me. I'll never forget that image. That image is here. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about that. That's I think about all my pregnancies, but this was different because this was something that I actually visually was able to see.
Yeah, and your husband as well.
Yeah, and you never get over something like that. You don't. And after that, we tried a couple of times. Again, we just reached about 7-8 weeks pregnancy, and then miscarried. And then we thought, okay, well, this is not working, so let's go down the IVF route. And I was just about to turn 40, so I was eligible for one trial.
Right, and through the NHS.
Through the NHS. And
so as in the NHS would
fund it.
Fund it.
Yeah, they would fund it. But in order to get onto IVF, they did some tests, and they found out that one of my tubes was actually blocked. My left tube was blocked, fallopian tube. And I can't even remember exactly what they said. I mean, the file is just so thick, this whole file of medical file that I've got. But they said that there was some kind of fluid that was leaking, and it was not helping to maintain a pregnancy, and that tube would need to be closed. So
what was wrong with the tube? Did you say it was
damaged?
Blocked?
It was damaged.
Something, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was doing nothing. It was doing nothing. And in order for me to get IVF, that tube would need, in order for it to work,
I understand,
that tube would need to be closed off or blocked or whatever. But it was blocked. But it would just need to be cut or whatever. So I had to have an operation. So before I had the IVF, I had an operation and I had my left tube closed. And at this point, it was now September and I was going to be turning 40 in January. So I had 4 months to be able to get that IVF, because the IVF has to actually have taken place before your 40th.
Right.
Yeah. It's not like you're in the system and, okay, you know, it's fine, I'm 40 tomorrow, and you could still, it has to have actually, the whole implantation, everything has to have taken place before.
Gotcha.
It's really weird. But anyway, so you can imagine the pressure. It was just, you know.
So relaxing.
Yeah. Relaxing, it was not.
Which is the most annoying thing, because they're like, just relax.
Yeah, just relax. It was definitely not relaxing. Did the IVF. They managed to, I think it was about, they had 4 or 5 embryos, which were, you know, or eggs or whatever, that fertilized, or I can't even remember what the, but yeah, and then they implanted it, and then I started my period, so that was that.
Just like that?
So that was that, yeah. It just didn't work. And then we said we'll try it one more time, but we will fund it this time ourselves. And we tried again 6 months later. And the same thing. Didn't work. And that was it, really. That was our journey. And I think after having gone through 6 miscarriages, 2 operations, and 2 IVFs, I think I was mentally, physically, and emotionally done. I was done.
I mean, I don't know how you
I
made it through the IVF attempts, to be honest.
I couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't do it.
No.
And I had to kind of accept it. It's not going to happen.
How long ago was that, do you feel like, that you started to accept it?
I think it was a gradual process. I think after I had my 3-month miscarriage, there was a part of me that the shock of it had already kind of, you know, I'd realized that I was not going to be a mother. I was heading towards it. But there was some hope. There was some hope. You know, there was still some hope. I hadn't hit 40 yet. So that number was just still there that, okay, I'm not 40 yet. There's hope.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it really hit reality when I hit 40. And I realized it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's because my body obviously cannot take whatever it can't take a pregnancy. It can't take a pregnancy naturally. It can't take a pregnancy via IVF. So it's just not going to happen. I don't think you ever accept it, but you learn to live with it. And you just learn to live with the fact that this is the card that was dealt out.
Are you surprised by the good days?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
What are the good days like?
Good days are when I look at Arthur and I think, I'm lucky. I have a loving husband. I have a beautiful home now. And I'm blessed. I have a family. I have supportive parents. I have a brother and sister. I have in-laws that are supportive. So I'm lucky. You know, life's not so bad. Yes, I don't have children. But you know what? It could be far worse. But then when the bad days come, they come like a ton of bricks. Mm-hmm. And it could just be the smallest little thing, like you just find out someone's pregnant, or you find out someone who is 20 years younger than you that you probably saw as a kid, and she's having a child, and you think, wow, how could she have a child? It could be this. I mean, everyone's allowed to have a child, but you know, it's amazing how the brain starts to think, and you think, wow, even she can have a child.
Yep.
You know, and it can just start from there, and then it's just like a roller coaster. It's like a domino effect, you know, everything just starts, and then you start spiraling into this black hole, and then you're just there for a while, and then yeah, it's hard.
Where do you have a method of getting out of the black hole that works? How do you recognize when that's happening?
I'll be snappy, I'll be moody, I'll be teary. But you know, it's funny you say that. In the last few years, I've actually become quite spiritual. And I found that talking to God actually helps me. It really does. It might sound a bit bonkers saying this, but
No.
I actually have a conversation with God in my head, in my mind. And it helps me because I always think to myself, just give me the courage, give me the strength to get through this. Because this is a hard thing to get through.
Yes.
And especially in a marriage, it can either be the make or break of you. It can either make you strong or it could just destroy you. And most of the time it destroys you.
Yes.
It destroys a marriage.
Yep. There's ups and downs there too, aren't there?
Exactly. And like I said, I'm lucky that I've got the support around me. So when I'm feeling down or when I feel as if it's kind of spiraling out of control, I guess I turn to God to give me the strength. Or I'll talk to my sister, I'll talk to Atha and find that strength and remind myself what I've got. I'll remind myself what I've got.
That's very good that you can do that.
As opposed to what I haven't got.
Yep.
And that's something that's taken a long time. It's taken a long time to get there. And there are times when you think, okay, well, I know what I've got, but I still want that.
Yeah.
But, you know, you somehow kind of try and find reason and just, yeah.
You tell me about your sister. Are you close?
Oh, we're very close. My sister she's like my best friend. She's been through the journey with me. She's always been by my side. I would say, I think the hardest thing for her was telling me that she was pregnant. And I remember when she told me, and she was just in tears because she knew I wanted it so much and she didn't know how to tell me and how it was going to affect me. Of course, I was so happy for her. I was so happy for her, but I was so sad for me.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. You're always happy for everyone. It's not like you're not jealous. You're just sad for you.
Yeah.
Especially when it's people that you're close to. You're just happy for them. And my sister is like I said, my best friend. Of course, I was just very happy for her.
The cat's come out of the jungle.
But yeah, I think that was very, very hard for her.
Is this her first pregnancy?
Yeah, it was her first pregnancy. But she made sure that she involved me as much as she could to make me part of that journey. And I was there as her birthing partner. I was there when Isla was born.
Right.
I cut the umbilical cord.
And how long ago was that?
About 1.5 years ago.
It's okay.
Can you?
Yeah.
Shh. recording.
Is when you said that your sister involved you, what do you mean by that? What was it from the beginning
From
of
the beginning.
the pregnancy? And
Yeah, from the beginning, I went to classes with her. We went shopping together, buying things together. But it wasn't. She allowed me to. It wasn't something she forced on me.
How did that work? Because how did you have a conversation about it?
Yeah, she said to me, look, I want you to be part of this journey with me, but only if you're comfortable. If you feel at any point that I can't do this, I'll understand. I'd like for you to be my birthing partner. Again, if you don't want to, don't do it. For me, I needed to do it. Mm-hmm. It helped. It actually, for some people, it doesn't help them, but for me, it was actually quite therapeutic.
Right.
Because I think falling pregnant is not just about having a baby inside you and that's it. It's a journey, isn't it?
Sure.
It's a journey. It's the little things that you do in between. The shopping, the buying, the pram, the cot, the, decorating that bedroom. It's the whole process. And I think that's what you feel when you don't have children that you're missing out on.
Yeah.
You think to yourself, I want to know what it feels like to have a baby shower. I want to know how it feels like to have lots of people just making a big fuss over me and people turning around and saying to me, oh wow, you look so lovely, you're so glowing. I'll never know what that feels like. Mm-hmm. So this allowed me to go through that little bit of process with her of what it felt like,
right?
What it would feel like. This allowed me to do that, to go out shopping, to buy things, baby clothes and think, oh, I like this or I like that. It just allowed, and even when I was there as her birthing partner in the hospital, I still remember till this day that the nurse is saying to her, push, push, and she's obviously pushing, but I was pushing too.
Huh.
And the nurse said to me, oh my God, are you okay? I think you need to sit down. I was actually pushing with her to the point where my stomach was actually hurting. I was thinking, why am I pushing? But it was like, I think in my head, and it sounds really sad and crazy, but in my head, it was a journey that I wanted to kind of take.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yes. You're fortunate that you got to do that, I think.
I just felt like I needed to know what it feels like.
Yeah.
I needed to know what it felt like. And I'll never fully know what it feels like, but just for that little split moment, I felt something. And it was nice. It was nice to actually see a baby coming out and I'm standing there with my stomach, hurting and everything, and I'm thinking, what's just happened, I haven't given birth, but it felt like I had.
Yeah.
And then cutting the umbilical cord and just, it was nice. It felt, and it helped me.
Wow.
I cried afterwards, don't get me wrong. I cried. I mean, I just went home and I had a good cry because It was just like, wow, I've just witnessed an amazing thing.
Yeah.
But for that moment, it felt as if I was there. Well, I was there, but it was me going through that. Mm-hmm. And that was the closest I was ever going to get to it. Mm. That was the closest. I only have one sister. So no one was ever going to allow me to go through that process. I'd never in my entire life ever touched a pregnant woman's tummy.
Right.
I've never known anyone close enough to be able to do that. I mean, I've got sister-in-laws, I've got friends, but sometimes people can be a little bit like, don't kind of touch me or anything like that. But this was my sister. I sat there with her big tummy, just kind of, and I felt the baby kick. It I needed to do that. I needed to have something to kind of take away from all of that and think I felt something.
Yeah.
I didn't give birth. I didn't go through the whole process, but I was part of something.
I think that's quite brave.
It is, and I'm not going to lie to you, it did hurt. Because after you think to yourself, why did I put myself through that? But I wasn't forced into anything.
No.
I did it because I wanted to. And at that moment, it felt right.
How was your husband? What was his, not that you can totally speak on his behalf, but have you been kind of realizing things at the same stages, or was he done before you were, or is it about the same?
In the beginning, I think it was hard because I don't think Arthur could understand. I mean, the first couple of miscarriages that I had, he was there, he was supportive, he was always very supportive, but I don't think he understood the impact it has on a body. Every time you have a miscarriage, a part of you dies inside. A part of you dies until there's nothing left. And that's, every time I was miscarrying, there was a part of me that just died. Every time I miscarried, a part of me died. Every time I had IVF, a part of me died. To the point where I've now reached that, that's why I mean that I don't know what I have left in me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he didn't in the beginning understand the impact of what a miscarriage can do. People just think, if you've had a miscarriage at 6-7 weeks, okay, well, it wasn't really a baby. I mean, that's what people, but for you, it's a baby.
Completely.
For you, it's a baby the moment you know that you're pregnant. And also, once you've miscarried, it's not like your body's back to normal.
No.
It's a process. So your body still thinks there's a pregnancy, and it takes time for your body to get back to normal, a good 2-3 months.
Mm-hmm.
He was always very supportive, and he was always there. But at the end of the day, it's my body.
Mm-hmm.
And what men feel and what women feel are two different things. They'll understand maybe the emotional side of it, but they'll never understand the physical side of what you go through.
No.
They'll never understand that. They'll never get that. But I think when I had the third miscarriage, I think for Arthur it was a reality that, wow, because he actually had something to see.
Yeah, I mean,
He actually had something to see, that this is what. So you can imagine, and I think that affected him.
I can imagine.
It affected him a lot, and well, it affected both of us.
Of course.
But I think Arthur is more optimistic than me. He'll always have hope.
In what way?
I think he strongly believes that we shouldn't lose faith. It could happen. It could still happen.
He feels that now.
He still feels that, I think, deep down inside.
Right.
No, maybe not as much as before, but I think there's still a tiny little ounce of hope that maybe it could just happen. It could happen. Whereas with me, I'm more at a place of I've accepted that it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because it's my body. I know my body.
Yeah. Is it possible that it could happen? Like, as in, are you trying to prevent it from happening in any way?
No, I'm not. But the thing, we're not. But I just don't see how. I'm 43 years old. The last time that I had IVF done, they told me that I had very limited amount of eggs.
Okay.
You know, that I needed to do it ASAP. And that was 2 years ago.
Do you ever have people who are close to you or not? I mean, anybody who knows what you've been through. Do you ever have anybody saying, "Oh, but why don't you try for adoption?"
I get that all the time.
And how do you respond to that? How does it make you feel when somebody says that?
I know before I used to get angry.
Mm-hmm.
Before, when people used to say, why don't you try adoption, or why don't you try surrogacy, or why don't you try IVF, or I used to get angry because I didn't want to talk about it and I just wanted to be left alone.
Mm-hmm.
But now when people suggest something, I know that they're only saying it because they care. So I actually listen to what they've got to say. But I'm not ready for something like adoption. I don't think I can. I'm not sure if I'm ready to take that mental and emotional journey of adoption. I know people that have taken it, and I know there's a process, and I know there's a waiting list, and I just don't know if I've got the energy to go through that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in a year's time, maybe in 2 years' time, I might feel differently. But right now, where I am, I don't think I've got the energy to go through that process or have any knockbacks, or I've come too far.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do something that's going to take me 10 steps back. So right now, it's not an option.
Yeah.
It's just not an option. Surrogacy, we've never really kind of looked into that because I know it's a very costly thing to do. And again, it's about the whole process. Everything's about a process. And you get to the point where you just give me a baby. I just want a child. I don't want to go through a process. Does that sound really kind of, but I just feel that way. I don't know if I can do that. I just don't know if I can do it. So that's something that we haven't looked at either.
Each of these processes, it's not like, that's the thing, like you said, there's no guarantee that it will end with the baby.
Exactly.
And you know 100% that it will be difficult. So you're just like, how do you find the...
Yeah, it's finding the energy. And when you've been through so much, you just think, have I really got the energy to go through this now? And I want it, but not at the cost of my mental health or my mental state. I want this, but I want to be happy as well. I want to live I don't want to wake up one day at the age of 50 and think I spent 20 years of my married life trying to have a baby, and it got me nowhere. And now what? I've got, well, nothing. I'm old, and what? Do you know what I mean? I want to be able
Totally.
to. There's got to be a point where you just say, enough. And I think that enough came for me, started probably 2 years ago after like I said, it was a gradual process, but I think in my mind enough happened 2 years ago where it was like, I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. I just can't. I just can't do it. And I think it was even when I was doing my IVF the second time round. And I hate injections. I'm petrified of them. Atha had to inject me. Can you imagine? And there was one day, well, there was a couple of days towards the end of the process where I had to actually have 6 injections.
Do you have to do injections every day during IVF? At least one a day?
Yeah, 1 or 2 a day or something. But there was one time where there's a point where you've got to actually have all these different injections, whatever. And there was 6. And what happens is you get these pens which have the liquid in and everything. And you can imagine this, like £150 a pen. So if let's just say you've got to take 200, I don't know, ml or whatever, and you've got 40 in one pen and you've got 60 in another and you've got 30, that means you're going to have to inject yourself that many times to make up that 200. It's crazy, isn't it?
That doesn't seem right.
Yeah. So
is that the NHS or the private
no,
one?
even the private. That's how it
all
worked.
of it.
Yeah. And I remember there was one time where it was just 6 injections Arthur had to give me. And I looked down at my stomach and I could see all these blue bruises, and I thought, I can't do this. I can't. This is not a way to live.
No.
This is not a way to live. I don't want this at this cost. I want this more than anything in the world, but not like this. If God can't give it to me naturally, then I need to accept that. But I can't keep trying to fight fate.
Yes.
And that's what it's about. It's about you reach that point where you think you need to stop fighting and accept it. And for a long time, I was fighting fate. I was adamant. And I've always been one of those people. When I want something, I want it. And I'm going to get it. I don't care at what cost. But even I had to step back and say, I can't win this one. This is one I can't win.
And how did you find that? How did you reach that realization? Was it through your spirituality?
Yeah, it was. There was a lot of things that actually helped along the process, and one of them was my mother-in-law passed away last year.
Oh,
She died of cancer, and it was quite a emotional journey to watch someone you love pass away, gradually deteriorating. It's one of the hardest things you can experience. And so I think that also had an impact on me as well, and it made me realize that we're just so insignificant. We're just a tiny little thing in this universe, and just like that, it's game over. And it just kind of hit me that, wow, make the most of what you got. Make the most of the time you have, because just like that, it could be game over, and it can happen so quickly when you least expect it. So I think there was a number of things that kind of led me to this place. But like I said, there's good days and there's bad days. But you know something, Shannon? If anything I've realized is, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. If he wants us to have a child, if God really wants us to have a child, it will happen. And it will happen even if everyone turns around and says, it's impossible. It's impossible. It will happen. But if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. And I've realized that I can't change that.
Yeah.
I've accepted that. So if it's in my destiny to have a child, I'll be 60 and I'll have a child. But if it's not, then it doesn't matter what anyone says or what anyone does. We can try surrogacy, we could try IVF 20 times. It will not happen. So I do believe in fate. I believe that what's written is written. And if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And if it's not, it's not. I can't change it.
Yeah.
None of us can change what's meant to be. So I've accepted that. And for a long time I couldn't, and I was challenging that. I was challenging fate. I was like, no, this is not how it's written for me.
Yeah.
I am meant to be a mother. And I'm going to do everything in my power to change that. And I couldn't. I couldn't change it. And 11 years on, I'm 43 years old and I still have no baby. So I wasn't able to change anything. So I've realized that that's the way it is.
I'm going to take a short break here to talk a bit more about what's going on with me. What is going on with Shannon at at the end of February 2019. Well, my cat is trying to squeeze her way through the cat door, so you might hear some banging around because she doesn't fit anymore. It's just the fur. She's not actually overweight. Well, yeah. If she struggles to get through the cat door, I guess maybe there's a problem. Anyway, it's been a whole year since I started working on this project. I have met many brilliant women who are advocates in the childless community. I've met speakers, writers, artists, philanthropists, journalists, and I've made friends, and that has been wonderful. In speaking about this podcast, I've found a way to speak about my own experiences in kind of a removed way, like, oh, I'm producing this podcast. Oh, what's it about? Involuntary childlessness. Oh, interesting. Yep, yeah, I had struggles with infertility myself and several miscarriages. So now I'm interviewing people about finding their happily ever afters. And the conversation would go on from there. But I could speak about my experiences in a kind of removed way. So the conversations were getting easier, but was I actually healing? Here's some math. Each episode takes on average about 24 hours to produce. Multiply that by 15. This is the 15th episode. And you get 360 hours. Now, a lot of that time is technical. The setup, the editing, the sound design, the actual logistics. But I would say that at least half of that time is pretty akin to therapy. So 180 hours. Divided by 52 for weeks in the year. That's 3.5 hours of therapy per week over the past year. Sounds intense. But am I cured? I'm a sucker for self-help books and therapy in all its glorious forms. My father is an amazing mentor. My sister, an incredible listener who knows what I'm about to say and do before I do. My mom sends me cards on Mother's Day because to her, I'm a mother in my heart, which is just as important. I take advantage of all of the support around me. But what I didn't realize is that maybe I had kind of rushed into my happily ever after. I decided I was done with the grief and the icky feelings and the pain, so I quickly created this podcast. And through each interview, I was doing a bit of healing. But I think I started to assume that my work was pretty much done. I thought only a cured person could have pulled off a project like this. I mean, how else could I keep delving into this topic? I'm cured, right? Well, yes and no. I mean, I can talk about my pregnancy losses and infertility now with almost anyone. And for the majority of the time, I won't be interrupted by a racing heartbeat or a knot in my throat or stinging heat behind my eyes that threatens to expose me. I can embrace my friends' children in a way that I haven't been able to in the past, well, not in any consistent way. But I'm not cured. But nor do I want to be. This is me. And if it was a physical scar across my cheek, I wouldn't want that erased either. It's funny because growing up, I always wanted to struggle. I had a really terrific upbringing, but it seemed as though a lot of the boys I liked in high school went for emo girls who had drama. I thought having it easy made me boring. Well, I'm not sure that what I've gone through has made me exciting, but it has made me me. So what is going on with me? I've realized that this project has been my baby for the past year. The people closest to me are all like, yeah, duh. But I've put so much more love into this than into my paying career. And for that reason, my paying career has started transforming, which is exciting and terrifying, but also necessary. I can sense the butterfly around the corner, but if I'm honest, things feel pretty metamorphically soupy around the edges. Quick, someone give me a sponsor so that I can talk to you about MailChimp at the break or like WeWork Spaces or some flipping Tempur-Pedic mattress. Right. I hope you enjoy this part, and I'll check in with you on the other side. You said that you were a girly girl and you pictured how your life would be. Now that you're kind of rewriting your dreams a little bit, what kind of exciting things do you have to look forward to that you maybe took for granted before?
I think we spoke about this, Arthur and I, and we've always both enjoyed traveling, and we've both traveled quite a lot, but we've realized that we want to do a lot more traveling. Do some crazy things, just do some adventurous things. We did that skydive, and then a couple of years ago we went to Jordan and we did trekking in the canyon, and so we're starting to become a lot more adventurous. And,
okay.
And we know that we need to do a lot more. We've got like a bucket list of crazy things that we want to do and stuff. And so we're just trying to make the most of what we've got and the time that we've got together, and live our life rather than just chasing a dream.
Yeah. Well, when you realize that you're not having kids, so much time opens up. Oh, did you fall off?
Yeah. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. There's times when you think to yourself, like for example, we've had the house done.
Yep.
But there's times when you're sitting in the garden. Not that it's an amazing garden at the moment, but when it will be. But we just look out and we think, wouldn't it be nice to have kids running around? Or we'll go upstairs and we'll walk around the house and there's an empty room.
Mm.
There's an empty room. No one sleeps in there. It's just an empty room. And you think to yourself, wouldn't it be nice to have some soul? But what can we do?
Do you have other children in your life aside from do you have nieces and nephews that spend time here?
From Arthur's side of the family, there's a lot of nieces and there's a lot of nephews and one niece. Family-wise, we both come from a very family-orientated kind of, we're Asian, so Asians are always kind of like, quite, they have a clique and, they're quite close and strong and everything. So we do a lot of, but yeah, we're surrounded by people with kids and birthdays and all sorts.
There's lots of them.
Yeah.
And you're included in their kind of plans and everything?
Yeah. Yeah, always. Niece, nephews, birthdays, yeah, of course.
That's nice.
Yeah. It is nice. Won't lie to you. There's times when you think, we're never going to have a little birthday party in our house or invite kids around and, but I've kind of got used to it now. In the beginning it was hard. Now they're all kind of grown up. They're all growing up now. They're in their teens and everything. But in the beginning, it was hard.
Yeah.
Because you'd go to, their houses and they're having a birthday party, kids and whatever, and you're thinking, I never know what it feels like. But like I said, it's getting easier. It is getting easier.
Which is amazing, because I'm sure there were points where you wouldn't ever believe that was possible.
No. Whether I'll be there 100%, I don't think I ever will, and I don't think you ever will. But you know what? One day at a time, that's all we can do.
Mm-hmm.
We can only take one step at a time. I've always been a planner. Hence why I always had it mapped out, where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. I was going to get married at the age of 26, graduate at 24, get married at 26, have children by 27, 28. I wanted to have 3-4 children. I had it all mapped out.
You really did.
Yeah. But it so did not go that way.
No.
I got married at the age of 32. Things did not turn out the way I had planned. But that's life. That's life.
Yeah, I think waiting for the right person is a big thing too, because you probably could have married somebody at 20.
Yeah, but I didn't want to marry someone. You know, I wanted to marry the right one. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad I waited for the right one, because if this was what was in store for me, journey-wise, I'm glad I took it with the right one, as opposed to the wrong person who maybe it would have just not turned out this way and who wouldn't have supported me. So I'm glad that it was Atha that I waited for. And yes, we met quite late, and we got married, I was 32, he was 34. But, I'm glad that I waited that long to meet the right one, because this was obviously all in store for me. This was what was going to happen. It was written in fate, and I'm glad that I took that journey with him. Mm-hmm. So, you win some, you lose some, isn't it?
Or, it's just a different path. It's not worse.
Yeah.
It's just the heartache along the way that makes it seem so...
Yeah. Of course, Now, when I think back of all the times that I've miscarried and think back on all the times that, it was hard. Gosh, it was hard. It was hard. I really didn't think I could survive any of them. Every time I would fall pregnant, every time I would think I'm going to miscarry, I'd think to myself, I can't do this again. If I miscarry this time, I'm not going to survive. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be able to live through this. I cannot mentally do. But it's amazing. You do.
Yep.
And then you try again. And then you think, right, okay, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to make it. And the amount of times I'd said to Ath, I'm not going to make it. I just can't bear this heartache. I can't do it. Somehow you find the strength and you get through it. You just get through it. Mm-hmm.
There's this place, because I think it was the last one that I had, and there's this like little woods on the way back from Epsom.
Yeah.
And that's where, because we just kind of... Oh, yeah.
It's getting a bit dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were coming back from finding out, and there's just like this little woods, and I was just like a complete wreck, and my husband was like, let's just take a walk. And like neither of us knew what to do or say, and we're just like taking this walk, and I was like making a scene, like it's just. And now every time I drive by that place, I'm just like, I can feel it. And like there was another time where I went down. We were like, okay, let's just go down to the beach, and it was like June or something, and it was freezing, and I just went in the water, and I was like, I just didn't even feel it.
Oh, I did crazy things like that. I did some totally bonkers things. I remember when my sister-in-law told me that she was pregnant. I think this was just after the miscarriage that I had, which was 3 months.
Yeah.
And then my sister-in-law told me that she was pregnant. And I told you I don't drink. I went home and I opened a bottle and I drank the whole bottle, like in literally 20 minutes.
Ugh. That didn't do you any favors.
Oh gosh. And I just remember I just went crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think you go a bit crazy.
You go a bit crazy, and you think to yourself, you have this out-of-body experience where you think, oh my God, am I turning into some kind of psychopath or something? But it's just, you're angry.
Oh,
but you're not angry at people. You're just angry at, I don't know, you're angry at you. You're angry at your life. You're angry at, why me?
Yeah.
Why me?
Yes.
That question, I'm sure every woman who has struggled with getting pregnant, I'm sure that's one question. Why me?
Yeah.
and you ask yourself that, why me? Why me? Why? What did I do so wrong? You reflect on your life. What did I do? I never hurt anyone. I never said anything bad to anyone. Why me? Why was I the one that was chosen?
Why am I being punished?
Yeah. Why am I being punished? And then you hear about kids being abused, and you hear about parents, not, don't even want them, and and you think to yourself, hang on, why them?
Yeah.
And why me? You try to make sense and you get angry.
Mm-hmm.
But then you think to yourself, you take a step back then and you think, there's people out there who are blind. There's people out there who don't have legs or arms or whatever, or have or have cancer or have some kind of illness or whatever. And I'm sure they also ask themselves, why me? Why me? What did I do so wrong? So you then think to yourself, it's not personal. For a long time, you take it very personally.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, I did take it very personally. I thought, why me? Of all the people, why did it have to happen to me? The one person who wanted the children the most, who would have been a loving mother, who would have done anything for it. Why me? But then you realize it's not about, it's just, that's life. That's life.
Yeah.
It's life.
There's no answer.
There is no answer. You're trying to find, that's the frustrating part. You're trying to find answers, but you're not going to get the answers, and there is no answer.
There's no answer, and you can't plan.
Yeah, it's just the way it is. It's just the way the universe works. It's just the way everything worked out. It's not personal, but it's about setting your mind, programming your mind set to the fact that it's not personal. And I think once you come out of that and you realize it's not personal, then the journey becomes a lot more easier.
Mm.
And that's what it's about. It's about reprogramming your mind and realizing it's not personal. It's just, that's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I had to learn to do. That's what I had to realize, that it wasn't personal. It was just unfortunate. It sucks.
Yep.
But it's just how it is. I can't change it. I think I know that I tried.
Yeah.
I put my body through a hell of a lot.
Yeah. All those injections.
Operations.
Yeah, God.
It was not just the IVF, but it's 3 different processes that I went through. Miscarriages, 2 operations, IVFs. I think that's...
And really, miscarriage doesn't seem like the right word for what happened to you. I suppose at 3 months they still call it a miscarriage.
They do.
But it seems not adequate.
For you, it's a baby the moment you find out.
That's true. Whether you see it or not.
Whether you see it or not, or whether even if it's the size of a peanut or a nut or a pea or whatever they say. For you, as far as you're concerned, it's a baby.
It's a life. It's a hope. It's an idea. It's a And you start making plans for this little thing.
I always, one of the most annoying things I always find is when people turn around and say, "Well, it wasn't really a baby, was it?" That was the most irritating.
Trying to be helpful, probably.
Yeah. But I've always found that the most unhelpful thing that anyone can say, because it actually winds you up even more when someone turns around and says, "Oh, it was about 6-7 weeks. Oh, well, it wasn't really a baby." Well, it was to you.
And also, the only people who say that are ones that haven't gone through it.
Yeah, exactly. I absolutely hate that when people say that. I just find it so irritating.
Yeah.
And so inconsiderate, I just find it you just think to yourself, well, hang on, yeah, like you said, they probably haven't been through it.
Yeah, you'd never say that if you had.
would never say something like that.
I mean, unless...
I don't think it's a nice thing to say, because like I said, it's the moment you find out, that's it. It's a baby.
I suppose it's the same as somebody going like, well, you know, I lost somebody dear to me, and them saying, well, you weren't that close, were you?
Yeah.
It's like, how can you...
Yeah, exactly.
Presume to say that?
Exactly. Yeah. So...
Yeah, people don't know what to say, do they?
People, yeah. They don't. And when you're at that... I think I've got better now. Whereby when people say something, I take it with a pinch of salt, and I'll kind of take a step back and take it in. Whereby before, you could not say anything to me, because I would just have a go at you straight away.
Is that what would happen?
Yeah.
Well,
everyone was quite like...
So what do you mean by... So what would happen? How
just like, I'd go over to an aunt's place, and she'd be like, oh, no children? Or, don't you want any children? And you're thinking... Excuse my French, but you're thinking, well, I'm trying, but it's not happening. But you don't want to say it out loud. And you're thinking, well, firstly, mind your own business.
Yeah.
Why are you so concerned about whether I want children or not, or why we haven't got children and what we're doing? Blah. So, but now when someone says something like that, be like, well, it is what it is, kind of thing.
But you would speak up and say...
No, I wouldn't. I think
that, but
I would just get angry, and I'd just come home and just...
Right.
But I wouldn't have the voice to actually say something that, hang on, you're asking me this question. Well, what do you think? I mean...
I started, really resenting being the one that felt bad when that question was asked. And I was like, no, I'm going to start saying, oh, no, we have had children, but they just didn't make it. They're not with us. And say something like, sometimes I would intend to make them feel as bad as I did. And sometimes I'd just be like, that's the truth. That's what happened. And if you can't handle what the answer is, don't ask the question.
Well, now my response is different.
And what do you say now?
Well, now when someone says, "Oh, you don't have children," I'm like, "No." Well, then I'm like, "Okay, well, here you go. I'll tell you what the problem is." Like, we've been trying to have children for 7, 8 years, 9 years, whatever, and we've had a number of attempts, IVFs, miscarriages, and it just, oh no, oh really, that's so sad. Oh my God, you've been through so much. So it kind of, I say it now.
Yeah.
I won't go into the details of it, but I'll just say, here you go. There's something for you.
Yeah.
Whereas before it would just be like, oh, well, well, when the time's right. That would be my answer, when the time is right.
Yeah. And then, which would probably inevitably lead to people saying things like, oh, you don't want to wait too long, and then you just start going, I'm going to punch you in the face.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'd get that all the time. And trust me, Shannon, being Asian, that's one of the questions that you have to remember. When you're Asian, it's like that your age is such a big factor.
Is it?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. You're just, already at 32 getting married was like, oh my God, she's 32 years old. Not my parents, but the family. Mm-hmm. It would be like, oh my God. She's past the sell-by date kind of thing, That's the mentality that some Asian families have. So already you're just like, you're sitting on the sell-by date shelf kind of thing, and there's no hope for you. So, yeah, it was only natural that when I did get married, everyone was like, oh, well, you're getting married, you're 32 years old, make sure you start kind of straight away, blah, blah. I was getting those kind of comments. But I was not listening. I knew that I wanted to. I was never kind of pressurized into thinking, oh, I've got to have children.
You wanted it,
I wanted it, Yeah. I wanted it.
It wasn't a pressure that you were...
Oh, absolutely not, absolutely not. But, yeah, so... Yeah.
How have your parents or close family taken... Have you had to tell anybody, look, we've definitely stopped now?
I think my parents have been very, very supportive. And I think they've always said to me, look, just start living your life.
That's nice.
Start living your life. You've got Arthur, you've got each other. Start enjoying your life. My family have been really, really supportive. Arthur's family have also been very supportive as well. They've always been, of course, everyone wants to see us have a child, everyone wants that, But again, there's never been a sense of kind of pressure or anything like, oh my God, we're actually very lucky. We are surrounded by immediate family that are supportive. We are very lucky in that sense.
Yeah.
That we do have a very supportive family. And that helps a lot, I think, because I think that when your immediate family is not supportive, it actually kind of sometimes can make it worse, because you feel you've got nowhere to run, or no one to run to, because you're thinking, well, if my family can't even be supportive, then, so, but we're lucky in that sense.
Yeah.
But we've only really, well, I should say, not we, I've only really taken their support. I've allowed them to support us as well in the last 2-3 years. Because before that, I was very closed.
Yeah.
For a long time.
Yeah.
I was not, it was a conversation that was just not talked about.
Right.
It's just very sensitive.
Right.
But it's only I kind of opened it up and allowed people to actually, when I did that skydive and everything, that in itself was a statement. It was a form of a statement.
How was that a statement?
For someone who's a very private person, very, very private person, to all of a sudden put this on Facebook and say, it's happened to me.
And can you just tell me what?
The response was amazing.
But what was what was it called? What did you say on Facebook?
Well, I said, I put up a page saying that I'm doing a tandem skydive and raising money for the Miscarriage Association. And the reason I'm raising the money for this charity, it's very dear to my heart, because my husband and I, we've been trying for many years, and we've had a number of miscarriages, and we know what it feels like, and we want to be able to help and support people out there who are going through the same thing.
You said all of that.
Yeah.
That's very brave.
Yeah, it was. And I had people donating that didn't even know me. That were friends of friends who had been through it.
Right.
And they had seen it on their Facebook and thought, oh wow. And I raised about £2,000.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. I raised £2,000 and my target was £350.
Wow.
I raised 2,000. So as I said, I had people donating and putting messages on the donation page. Well done, I've been through this. You're like a voice, kind of. It was like, and plus you have to remember, being Asian and voicing this is another thing as well. Because Asians don't talk about this kind of stuff. It's a very much brushed under the carpet.
Right.
It's a very taboo kind of subject. You don't talk about it. So it was a big thing.
Yeah.
That I was Asian, and I was kind of saying, it happened to me.
Yeah.
And it's okay. So for me, that was also kind of a form of therapy.
Yeah.
But it was also me kind of making a statement to say, okay, it's happened to me.
Yeah.
And I'm a statistic, or I'm, So I think, I'm glad I did it. I felt good for it, and it felt good. But I'm also glad that I don't know if I made a huge impact, but I think I made, even if it was a tiny little impact that I made.
Sure.
I'm glad I made it.
By saying that out loud, you let somebody else know that they weren't alone.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was amazing. Like I said, there were how many people kind of then made a comment and said, oh, it happened to me too. Oh, it happened to me too. And I had people saying that, and I was thinking, wow, I don't know you. But all of a sudden, people felt like they could voice themselves and say something that it happened to me.
Yeah, that's great. It's really important.
So, yeah. And then after that, I met some family and relatives and whatever, and they all asked me, and they said, oh, you did a skydive. What charity was it for? Normally, if I was to do something like that, I'd say, oh, I did it for some charity. But I actually said it.
Yeah.
I actually did it for the Miscarriage Association. So that in itself just says that if you've done it for the Miscarriage Association, there's obviously some kind of link.
Yeah.
Hence why you've done it.
Yeah.
So that was a big kind of thing for me to say as well. So
Definitely. Yeah, that's great. And then that was right around the same time that we met.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you did that right
Yeah.
after you. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great. And I think this is great that you've...
And I think also meeting you guys was also a step as well.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about someone who's never spoken about it. I never spoke about my whole experience to anyone apart from my sister and my mum who went through the journey with me. But I never actually spoke to people like strangers or anyone.
Right.
So for me, that in itself was a big step as well, to meet up with women I'd never met up with before, and to actually sit there and hear their stories. And so there was a lot of things that were happening, and I was trying to get myself out there and trying to kind of just voice myself.
Yeah.
And not suffer in silence, which I did for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah.
And it didn't help.
No.
It damaged me in many ways. So I think that if anything I've learned in the last couple of years is you need to let it out. You need to talk about things.
Not very British.
Exactly. It's not
very
British.
Asian either.
Yeah, exactly. So you can imagine it's not very British and it's not very Asian either, because you don't talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, it is very American, but it's still a taboo subject for... I think it's a really tricky subject because it's not like a very tangible grief of losing a loved one that, is still hard for people to talk about, but it's...
But I think still Americans still tend to talk about things. You guys...
Definitely much more.
You very openly say, I'm seeing a therapist.
Yeah.
Very openly say that. Whereby if in this country, it's only in the last probably, I don't know, for 5-6 years that people openly say, I'm actually seeing a counselor, I'm seeing a therapist. And people don't think, okay, I'm going a little bit bonkers or something. Because that's how the British are. If you say to them, I'm seeing a counselor, I'm seeing a therapist, they automatically would assume, oh my God, something's not right up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
They would think that. Mm-hmm. But I think they've learned
it's changing.
It's changing. That's why there's so much mental health issues in this country. And that's why there's so much exposure now. Mm-hmm. They're just trying to bring it to, like, it's okay. You're hearing about famous people that have said we've suffered from depression. That it's okay. It's okay to be depressed. It's okay to have some kind of, mental issue, whatever. It's okay. It doesn't mean that you need to be in a strap jacket and be locked up or anything. But that's how the British have always been. That, if you say something like that, you just think, oh, that's it. You're ready to be in a strap jacket.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. But yeah, thankfully it is changing.
But I think the culture is changing a lot. I think it's changing a lot. And this is a topic that I think people need to talk about. It needs to be aired.
Yeah.
Because it's nothing to be ashamed of. But you suffer in this silence that you feel that it's something to be ashamed of.
Yep.
And it's not. It's the way it is. It's just the way things have worked out. It's just the way your body is, or whatever reason there is. But, you shouldn't suffer in silence and be ashamed of it.
We haven't done anything wrong.
Yeah.
Even though it feels like it sometimes.
But exactly. You're actually your worst enemy, and you're punishing yourself. And I did that for a very long time. Mm-hmm. A long time. I punished myself.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me.
Did I go on and on a bit too much?
Not at all. Not at all.
You're thinking, oh my God, shut up now.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. I think, it's so important. There's lots of interesting things. I think you've got some good insight for people who might want to get to the other side.
Yeah. Everyone's journey is different, isn't it?
Yeah. But if you live in isolation and you don't know anybody else who's going through it, just to hear how helpful spirituality is and how helpful it is to talk about it and to let people in. I think that's really good for people to hear.
I think you've got to let people in. You have to. Because if you don't, then you're just damaging yourself. And like I said, I've always been one of those people that believe it or not, I'm not a talker. Believe it or not, I've never liked talking about myself.
Right.
But in the last couple of years, I've actually started to talk a lot more about myself, about problems, about things, about miscarriages. And it's, like I said, it's a form of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people out there need to realize that it's nothing you shouldn't suffer in silence. You shouldn't be ashamed of it.
No.
Because that's what it is. It's being ashamed of it, isn't it? For a long time, you think to yourself, that's another thing, you live in this kind of, you think, I'm different.
Yeah.
I'm different because I can't have children. And that's hard.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard to, that's really hard to, and I did that for a long time. Where I was like, I'd see all these women and kids and everything, and I'd always feel kind of isolated and think,
yeah,
different. But
yeah, that's a very lonely feeling.
Very lonely, very, very lonely feeling. Oh gosh, it's really hard. There's still times, don't get me wrong, Shannon. I mean, like, I've sat here talking like as if I'm just, on top of this world and everything. And it's not as hunky-dory as, trust me, there are times when I can go somewhere and feel a little bit not part of the clique.
Yeah.
I think I'm not part of you guys because I can't have children, and you all have children, and you know what it feels like to be pregnant and to be a mother and blah blah blah, and you just think, I'm not one of you.
Mm-hmm.
And it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Because you kind of feel disgusted with your body,
ripped off.
Yeah, disgusted. And I've always had a lot of issues with my body anyway, like I've always been, but for me to go through something like this, it was hard, because it was like, why wouldn't a baby want to stay in my tummy? Why not in my tummy? What's so wrong with my body? What's so wrong that a baby doesn't even want to stay there? And I was hard on myself, for a long time, that I felt disgusted with myself. I would just look at my body and think, that's a disgusting body, that a baby doesn't even want to be in there. Yeah, it hasn't been easy. It still isn't easy. I'm still seeing a counsellor, and I talk about these things. But the biggest step I took was that I'm talking, and that's something I've never done. For me, that was the biggest step that I took. And you have to talk about it, whether it's to yourself or your partner or God or a therapist or whatever, but you need to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then it just bottles up, and and then when it blows, it just blows. And
also, like, in our...
Do you want another drink?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm good. Thank you. In our kind of, like, inside minds, you think some dark and crazy thoughts, which is fine. Everybody does. But if you're only ever thinking that and you never express any of it, then it just eats you alive, doesn't it? And then you're just like, I think I'm going crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, gosh. Yeah. I remember watching this movie. You're not recording this, are you?
Yes.
I remember watching this movie once, and it was about I know it's really going to sound really crazy what I'm about to say. You might not want to put this in there, but it was about this woman who she was a nurse and she wanted to have a baby and she couldn't have a baby. I'm sure it's one of those movies you've probably seen. You know, it's the lady who was in Charlie's Angels, Sabrina. I remember Sabrina in Charlie's Angels, the original Charlie's Angels.
Oh, yeah.
The tall one who was with the black hair.
Yes.
Remember? So she stars in this movie.
Oh, so like it's not a recent movie.
No, it's an old movie, yeah. And she's a nurse and she wants to have a baby and blah blah blah, and she can't have a baby, so she fakes a pregnancy and she pretends that she's carrying a baby and she puts cushions, blah blah blah. Now she needs to find a baby. So she's a nurse, so she works in a hospital, so she goes and steals a baby.
Of course.
And it's weird because depending on what angle you're looking at it from. If you're looking at it from a person who's got a child, you'll think, oh, what a bitch, what a crazy psychopathic woman. How could she do something like that? That's just... But then if you're looking at it from an angle of someone who wants a baby, you're thinking, you're not justifying it, but you're thinking, how sad that it's reached that level that you felt the need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you think, wow, how desperate someone can get and how their mind cannot be in the right place that they could actually contemplate doing something like that.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember Raising Arizona, that film?
No.
With, well, that's something to watch.
Really?
Nicolas Cage, do you know who he is?
Yeah.
Holly Hunter, do you know who she is? It's quite old, but, well, I don't think this is... No, this isn't spoiling it. It's pretty much the premise is she can't have kids. She's heartbroken. There's a new... And they're kind of like a bit low-lifey, like poor white trash type people. And they watch the news one night. They're just kind of like sitting there watching TV, and they find out that this local like millionaire has just had like quintuplets or something, like I don't know. There's like a lot of babies, and they're just like, why does one person need that many babies? They wouldn't even notice if we went and took one.
So that's what they do.
It's a bit of a comedy. Do you know the Coen brothers who did Fargo? And
yeah.
I think that was one of their first films.
Right.
So it's a bit of a dark comedy, but you see her desperation, and he's like, I will steal a baby for you. All I want is to make you happy, and I can't give you. And watching it now, you're just like, when I watched it before, it just seemed a bit abstract and just really quirky. But now I'm like, I'm not going to steal a baby. But I can see.
But you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You think to yourself, and I know I'm not going to go and go on a crazy like hospital run and stuff. I'm not going to do that. But you
can kind of see how somebody would.
But you could see how somebody would, because you think to yourself, you can see how sad and desperate you can get to the point where you're not thinking straight.
Totally.
Because your emotions can sometimes just get carried away, and you're not thinking right.
Yeah.
So but like I said, it's one of those movies that it depends on which angle you're looking at it
Totally.
from.
Thank you, Zarina.
Thank you, Shannon. It was really good to talk to you, and
always nice to talk to you.
I hope that what I've said, that it can help other people that maybe are in the same situation as well, and who feel like they're suffering in silence, and they don't need to. They just need to talk. And the biggest step that they can take is to talk to someone.
Yeah. Well, thank you for giving them someone to listen to while they hopefully get the courage.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. And please join the Happily Ever After community on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter if you search Happily Ever After Podcast. That is also where you'll be able to see a photo of Zarina and her husband, Atha. Surf on over to my website, provided to you by my generous patrons. Thank you so much, patrons! Your monthly donations are going directly into my website so that I can continue to build a place for people to hang out, visit, check in, interact, feel part of the community, and get in touch with me. This has been an Applied Reality production. And if you like the show, please help me promote it in any way you can. You can write a quick review in iTunes. Please do that for me if you can. Another way is to become a patron. Go to the Happily Ever After Without Children page on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Happily Ever After Podcast to make a monthly contribution so that I can remain an independent producer and so that you can get exclusive perks. And finally, please share details of this podcast with your network of friends and family. You never know who else might be suffering and could really use a light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. This is your host, Shannon Vandermark, and I thank you for listening.